Hey everyone, it's Deja from CrochetEverAfter.com. Today I'm going to show you how to take some pretty sad looking projects and turn them into great looking projects. And the way that you do that is by blocking. So this is supposed to be a straight edged infinity scarf. Right now it's just a regular scarf, it's not joined. I do have my ends still unweaved because after I block it I will sew it together and make that big loop infinity scarf, but in the meantime I need to get this looking better. And this is supposed to have straight edging, and you can see it's not very straight looking. My lace isn't very defined. By blocking this, I am going to get a great looking project. Now, the way that I like to block straight edge projects is with lace wires. And this is a lace wire. It's also called a blocking wire. You can get them lots of different places on the internet. Just Google it. So these will take the work out of having to pin your straight edge all along your project. I'm going to show you how these work in a little bit, but I encourage you to get them if you're going to be making a lot of projects that you need to block. Now by using these, I am going to make my straight edge actually visible and make my lace look a lot better. I'm also going to use cool water that I'm going to submerge my project in. There are other ways to get your project wet. I'll explain those as we submerge in a little bit, but if you like my way, this is a very easy way to do it. Also, I have blocking mats. Blocking mats are very helpful, but if you don't have them, I'll tell you what else you can use. Towels for drying my project when I take it out of the water, and also pins. Gotta have pins to block your stuff. So I have T-pins. You can also use rust-proof sewing pins, but let's get started and I'm going to explain all of this to you in just a second. Alright, now we are ready to get started. The type of blocking that I'm doing, I'm fully submerging my project into water. And I'm going to leave it there for 5 to 10 minutes. The reason that I do that is it helps to open up my natural fibers. So if you find that you have like kind of an itchy wool project, by putting it in water, it's going to help release the wool a little bit and make it less itchy. It's kind of like magic. Before you put your item fully in water though, you need to check what it's made of and also its color fastness. So this yarn is sock yarn. It's a Wisdom Yarn Poem sock, so I know that it's sturdy because technically it's supposed to be used for socks, and we all know how much wear and tear socks get. So I'm not worried about putting this in water. If it was brighter colored, I might want to do a test swatch first, because another problem you can have by putting something fully in water is if the colors run. Since these are all pretty dark colors, even if it ran a little, I don't think it's really going to affect my project. But variegated yarns, or maybe if you're doing a striped project and you have white and red, you might end up with a big pink mess. So make sure that you check that you're not going to have color running when you have it in water. I'm just going to throw this in water and I'll explain how else you can do it. But I'm just going to push it in the water and let it soak in there for a few minutes so that it can open up. Now, if you don't have a yarn that you can put in water, like if it's a fully 100% cashmere, you may not want to just throw it in water. I would instead block it, which I'm going to show you how to do in just a second, and then spritz it with water so that it's not sitting in water for a really long time. Just enough to get it a little wet, a little damp, and then it'll dry out and block to shape. Now the reason that blocking works is because natural fibers will hold the shape that they're in. So you get it wet, then you lay it out how you want it, and as it dries, it has memory. It sticks to the shape that you put it in. So by pinning it out in a straight rectangle, I will keep my straight rectangular shape. And I'll show you that at the very end after it's completely dry. When I unpin it, it's going to stay right in shape. Once I wash it, I have to reblock because it got wet again, so I have to reshape its memory. This will work for animal fibers. So if you have cotton is very elastic. It's not going to hold its shape as well as a wool, a cashmere, alpaca, anything that actually came from an animal. So I'm going to let this sit for a few more minutes, and then I'm going to show you the next step in blocking. Okay, I am back. I've let my project sit in the cool water for about 5 to 10 minutes. I'm ready to pull it out and dry it off a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it out of the water and just kind of squeeze out the excess. You don't want to wring it because that can twist it out of shape. Now is the time that you're shaping it, so you don't want to pull it too tight because it will definitely twist out of shape and not look great. Blocking is great because it can really fix problems in your workmanship. So if you have some stitches that were really off and you're trying to get a certain size, or maybe you didn't make gauge, you have a lot of looping in there, especially the bigger the stitch gets. You have double crochet that's been looped and looped and looped. Well, if you need to stretch this a little, you can pull it when you're blocking it, and it's going to stretch out those loops a little, and you'll get extra length. So if you have gauge that's off, blocking can definitely help you achieve the gauge you need. So if you're making a garment and maybe you made the sleeves a little too short, you can definitely block them a little bit longer. Not always, so don't, take my word for it. You're going to have to try it and see what stitch pattern you're using and what kind of leeway you have on it. So I'm going to just move this roll to the side. I have my towels already laid out. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold this in half. I'm just trying to get out all of the extra moisture so that it doesn't take a million years to dry. So I'm just going to put these on top. What I like to do is kind of roll it up and just squish it to get all the extra moisture out. Once I'm happy with how much extra water I got out, then I can actually move on to blocking it. So let me get my blocking mat set out and show you exactly how to use those lace wires right now. Okay, so I have set out my blocking mats and I have my lace wires and I'm ready to start blocking. Before I start, let me talk about the blocking mats. These are interlocking mats. I got them from knitpicks.com. They're really handy because my pins stick very easily into them. Other things that you can use, there are like kid play mats that are also, they look exactly like this except they're very brightly colored and may have numbers or shapes on them. Those will work the exact same way. You can use those. You can also use an ironing board. So if you have maybe a scarf, you can put an ironing board. Just put like a towel on top of it and then lay your project on it and pin it. You can use your bed. You can get like a waterproof layer first, put some towels, and then put your project. You can get very creative. So it's not necessary to have the blocking mats, but they're very, very helpful, useful. And the interlocking ones, you can make the shape of what you're making. So if you're making a triangular shawl, you can put some extra mats on the end to be able to fit that whole triangle. So I'm going to pull my scarf out of my towels and get rid of those. And I have my lace wires. Now, if you see that my scarf is quite long, it's going to be a pretty big scarf in the end, and my lace wires aren't even close to being long enough. So all I have to do is just start my very first one and then put another one right on the end of it. So I just kind of double them up. But lace wires are very easy to use. All you're going to do, if I don't get stuck on all my pins that I put here, let me move those to the side. The lace wires also reduce the amount of pins you need, because if I didn't have these, let me show you real quick what I would actually do. I would lay out my scarf, and I would get it to the size that I wanted it, and I would have to start pinning my edges. And I would have to do it very close, lots of pins. This would take a whole lot of pins, so to get that nice stretched, nice clean edge, it would take a whole lot of pins. So the the lace wires are really going to cut down on that, so I'm going to show you how that actually works. But to begin my lace wires, I'm going to move my tail out of the way, you're just going to run it along the edge of your project, in between your stitches. So you can see that right here I have a very thin piece where my lace begins. I just run it through those stitches. The more stitches I run it through, the straighter my edge will be, because it's going to keep that edge nice and straight for me. So I can do it really fast and do just a couple of stitches, you know, every couple of inches, or I can try to get it into every stitch in every row to really get a straight edge. Alright, I wanted to give you also a close-up of adding the lace wires to my project so you can kind of see how it looks as I push it through. So I just keep weaving it back and forth. I'm doing about, I'm putting it in about every row so that I get a nice clean edge. And it really doesn't take that long. It may seem like it will, but it's a lot faster than trying to straighten your edge out and pin constantly along your edging. So I'm just going to keep on weaving back and forth, and you can see I have it all bunched up. I just push it out as I go, and then when I get to the end of this lace wire, I will add in the next one. Let me grab it and I'll just show you how I do that real quick. So if that was the end of my wire, I would just put this in right, where I ended, and start, well, actually, let me go back the other way, because I gotta go the same way. I would just start weaving it in where the other one left off. So I would just go back and forth with that. So I'm going to continue on, and once I get this completely weaved in, I will come back and I will show you how to pin it down. Alright, so I have finished putting my wires in, and you can see already that my edge is looking a lot straighter. I'm getting a lot more definition out of my lace. But let me go ahead and start pinning and really show you how well these lace wires work. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to start right in my corner so that I can start pushing my wires apart to get the right width on my project. So what I'm going to do is put the pin on the inside of my wire so that it's going to hold it in place when I start pulling my other wire apart. So I take my other wire and I just start pushing it apart. And I don't want to push too far. I don't want to stretch out my scarf, but I want it so that all of my flowers, my lacy flowers, show off nicely. And I'm also going to pin my edge down here so that it is straight. But let me pull this apart first and get the corner right. Now if you need to, you can use a tape measure if you need a certain size, or a yardstick, whatever you need. I'm going to use these little blocking pins that I got with my blocking mat to do the edges. And I'm just going to push them in slightly. I don't want to push too far because then you're going to poke through your mat to the other side. But I want to pull my edge straight across. These little textural elements in my blocking mat actually help with seeing how to make it straight. So you can see that if I were to use these for my entire scarf, getting that straight edge, I would be using a lot of these, because just on this edge alone I probably use 6 or 7. Then I'm going to take my T-pins and start pushing my wires out along my edge. So I'm just going to do one side first and get a straight edge on my wire. And then I'm going to take my other wire and do the same. And you can see, oops, might have this a little bit too wide. And you can adjust, so you can see it, this is kind of pulling up, so that's telling me that my scarf is a little bit too stretched out. So I'm just going to undo this a little and let it kind of pop back to where it wants to sit naturally, and then repin them. So it's a little trial and error to get it right in the right spot. or you can actually go by your gauge. I might want to put a little bit more pins in here because you can see that it's kind of pulling a little and it's giving a little bit of a ridge. So I'm going to do that all the way down my project, and then I'm going to let it sit until it dries, preferably out of sunlight. Once it's completely dried, then I will come back and I will show you how it looks once we unpin it. Alright, I have finished blocking. I have let my scarf dry, and now I just wanted to show you how nice and straight my edging is and how nice the lace is holding its shape. I can just flop it around and scrunch it up and do whatever I want, and when I pull it back out, it retains, it goes right back to the shape that I blocked it in. So it's very, very handy for use those lace wires when you're using a straight project like this. If you don't have them though, then just, you know, pin along the edge and you can do the same thing. But when you're blocking the lace, make sure that you're pulling it out so that you can get the nice you know, expanded form of that lace, so you can really see what this is supposed to look like. So now you can see my little flowers that I put in there. But that is how you are going to block with lace wires.